Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're sitting at today. I would like to welcome you to Sikich's webcast, How Salesforce Supports MGAs in the Insurance Distribution Market. Today, your presenter is going to be Matt Mountain. I'm going to go ahead and give Matt control to start setting up his screen.
Well, thank you. And we are going to get started here. As part of the discussion today, really focused around how we can support MGAs and the insurance distribution market. Over the course of the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to walk through how we support MGAs in the insurance market. And so as part of this, we're going to spend 5 minutes going through a few slides. I'm not a PowerPoint person. And then we're going to spend the majority of the time going through the demo. But it's very important that you understand what we're going to be covering. And that's really what this PowerPoint has been put together for. So what we're going to do here is a little bit about Sikich. Sikich is about 1,000 people, headquartered in Naperville, Chicago, Illinois. Really three facets: accounting and tax, technology, as well as advisory. We are on the technology side. And so as part of that, the technology group consists of a BI group, a business applications group, which is focused around CRM, ERP, cloud services, managed services, IT security. So quite a breadth of technology services offered by Sikich. From an insurance standpoint, we've worked with over 150 insurance clients. We have a lot of knowledge across agencies and MGAs and carriers, very deep from a knowledge standpoint with Salesforce and Insurity, as well as the Veruna agency management system. And we also have a Head Start offering for insurance that really provides speed to value. One more slide on Sikich, and then we're going to dive into the scope of today's demo. Just wanted to make you aware that our clients use Salesforce on our projects. So what we've done is we've taken the Salesforce Experience Cloud, or the portal that Salesforce sells, and we give clients access into our community so that they can manage their project with us. It allows us to centralize all the requirements and the user stories and the testing, and to be able to see project updates. So I share that with you just as another use case on how you can give external folks access to your Salesforce environment. A little bit about how we got here. So in about 2010, we built our first insurance agency CRM application. And we did that with State Auto Insurance. And then about 4 years later, we turned it into a package on the Salesforce App Exchange. It had average, at best, adoption because it wasn't integrated with the back-end agency management system. And then we built a lightweight agency management system for the aviation broker industry, co-founded Veruna in 2016, and really started working with MGAs around 2017 and really started to build up the niche. And then we built this MGA data model on the Financial Services Cloud, which we're going to be showing you today. So with that, let's jump into the demo. And I did tell you that the PowerPoint was going to be very short, and it was. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to walk through our data model that's been built based on a lot of MGAs that we've worked with. So this is a package that we have built, and as we get more requirements, we continue to enhance, but it could be picked up and dropped into a Salesforce environment for our clients to use. So this application can be integrated with other systems that you have today, whether they're back office systems, whatever type of legacy systems you may have, because you may want to be bringing in data from those systems, such as policy information, or you may want to take data from this and pass it to other systems within your enterprise. So the agenda for today, for the demo, we're going to go through 7, 8 things. First one is we're going to review the MGA application. We're going to go through the appointment process on how do you appoint agencies. We're going to go through the submission process, and not only the submission, but the policy process. We're going to go through the renewal process. We're going to go through the policy change or the endorsement process. We're going to go through commissions. We're going to go through reporting as it relates to both how much is owed to carriers, agencies, as well as agency performance and how are these agencies performing. So we're going to cover a lot of things here over the next 30, 45 minutes. So what you can see right now is we have built an app called MGA, and we have these tabs associated to it. So we're going to be covering a lot of these tabs as part of the demo. We are going to start with the leads tab. And what you're going to see is that we have a lead here for Lynn Sunderman at Jacobs Insurance. Lynn is potentially interested in working with us, the MGA. And as you can see, we've got some information here about Lynn on the page. Phone numbers, emails, how long they've been in business, so on and so forth. This allows us, and we can capture this information either through a web form where Lynn could have come to our website, filled out the information, and it could automatically come in here with no manual intervention. It could come in through a list that we purchased. There could be a number of reasons. But what you can see over here on the far right is that we've got not only, we haven't been able to find a duplicate in the system, which is good, but we've got all of our activities over here. And I'm going to expand this. And what you're going to be able to see is that we had an initial call logged with Lynn. I had a conversation with her about potentially working with us, and she's going to provide us with some information. And you can see that there's an upcoming activity for next week to remind me to reach out to her if I haven't received the information yet. So let's fast forward, and let's say that had another great conversation with Lynn. Now what we're going to do is we are going to convert Lynn because she really wants to go through the process to become appointed. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to convert the lead. Salesforce has a standard lead conversion process. So whether you call it a suspect, a prospect, a lead, what have you, I look at leads as a place where you can warm up prospects before converting. So we are going to convert this lead. And by doing that, what we're doing is we are creating an account, which would be the agency, a contact, and an opportunity. So let's start here on the account. So what you can see here is that we are on the account for Jacobs Insurance. Some of the data that was on the lead was copied over and placed on the account. Some is going to be on the contact, some is going to be on the opportunity, and you'll be able to see that. You can see that we are using a record type called prospective agency. So this allows us not only, record types allow you to store different information on the page and have different relationships. So this is a way in which we're segmenting Jacobs Insurance. They are prospective. You can see that all the activities that we've done have been copied over. We didn't lose that when we converted the lead. So what we've got in addition to this record, which by the way has limited fields on it because it's a prospective agency, we can also take a look at any related contacts. So let's go in here and just take a look at contacts. Now what you'll see is that when I clicked on Lynn's name, we went from the account tab over to the contact tab, and I can see the information here about me. Okay. Now what we want to do is I'm going to click on Jacobs Insurance here and go back to the account. What I want to take a look at is the appointment process. And what you can see is there's an opportunity to make them appointed. So what we're looking at here is the opportunity. You can see that we've got some stages: qualification, due diligence, closed. Everything you're seeing here, whether it be these stages, whether it be the page layouts, the pick list values, everything here can be customized based upon what you're looking for. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to fast forward this because we don't have a lot of time, and we are going to move this to closed. And I'm going to change it to closed here. I could also change the stage down here, but I'll just change it to closed. We're going to pick the appointed stage, and I'm going to save it. So fast forward, in the span of 2 minutes, they became appointed, okay? Realizing that typically it's going to take longer than that. Now, we could have an onboarding process kick off in order to onboard them to work with us. We will talk about processes later. I'm not going to show you that as part of this demo. What I want to do now is go back to Jacobs Insurance. So we just appointed them, and now what you're going to be able to see is that the account record type has changed. It's no longer prospective agency, it's appointed agency. And what you can see as I start to scroll down is that there's a lot more data available. We even have some report charts here. Now keep in mind they were just appointed, so we're not comparing premium versus last year's submissions yet, but we will get into that. But there's a lot more fields that are now available for this appointed agency for us to track how they're doing. Now, what I want to show you here is that built into our data model is 5 different what's called record types. We've already talked about prospective agency and appointed agency, and we're going to spend the rest of the demo on the appointed agency. But we also have one for carriers. And then if you want to track the agency's client, so in this case, who would be the client of Jacobs Insurance, you could enter those as businesses or individuals based upon the type of insurance. For purposes of our demo, we're not using the business or the individual and tracking who the end client is from a record standpoint, but I wanted to make you aware that that is possible. Other thing I'd like to show you before we dive in is views. And if anybody knows me, they'll know I love my views. I built a view here of appointed agencies. I've got a view here of prospective agencies, ones that we're talking to about potentially becoming appointed. But the idea behind these views is they're very easy to build, and they give you access to a subset of your data. I don't want to see all the accounts. I only want to be able to see the list of accounts that I want to see. What you're going to see is what I've done is I've pinned this view, meaning every time I come to the accounts tab, I want to see this view, which is very nice, again, in order to save me some clicks. So we just showed you how to go through the appointed process. Now, because we just appointed an agency that doesn't have any data, we're going to use an agency that has data so that this is going to be much more meaningful. So let's just take Powers Insurance here. So what you're going to see is they're an appointed agency. Up top here, what we've got is we've got in our compact layout fields that are, we feel, very meaningful. Agency code. What's their rating? That rating could either be calculated by the system or brought in or determined manually. They've been appointed. How much premium do they do? What have they done with us this year? What did they do last year? So we're tracking just and having some high level information stick out that we feel would be important. In addition to that, what we're also taking a look at is, remember when I showed you the graphs for that agency that we just appointed that had no data? Well, now these charts are a little bit more meaningful. We can see that they've done almost 400,000 more in premium this year versus last year. And submission to written. So one of the things that we're tracking is how many submissions, and of those submissions, how much business are we writing? Everything they're giving us is turning to gold, is what this is saying. But down here below, what you're going to see is here's all the data. So here's all the premium data. This data most likely would be coming in from an external system. And that could be set up to bring in every night. You probably don't need real time. We also have goals. So this is where you can set some annual goals around premium and around policies. And then the system will do the math and let you know where they are compared to where they should be. Down here, this is where we're tracking submissions to written and quote to written and other attributes, as well as retention. They may sell, but not retain. And again, these are more metrics about the agency that are available to you as this data is available in Salesforce. What you can see here is that we have a related contact, and Linda Powers is with Powers Agency. So I'm not going to go into the contacts because we're just tracking attributes about that person. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take a submission. We just took a submission from the Powers Agency, Powers Insurance Agency. So what you're going to see here is there's two submissions. Now what I did was I pre-populated and added in workers' comp. So Sikich is the end client, and Sikich is interested in a workers' comp policy. Now, we're just tracking some basic fields here as part of that. And what we want to do is we want to create a policy opportunity to track, are they going to become a customer? So there's a button up here called New Policy Opportunity. And when I click on this, what it's done is it's brought over all the fields from the submission here. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. And what I've done with 2 clicks is I've created a policy opportunity here. So now you can see we're on the opportunity object. We're in the clearance stage of this. And we are looking at selling Sikich a workers' comp policy. So the effective date came over from the submission. The expiration date is 364 days later. Okay. We've got a close date of 7 days before the effective date, and that's just a default that we put in place. You can see that it's a prospective policy and it's new. It's not a renewal. So what we did is, as part of clicking that button, is we brought over a number of fields and pre-populated other fields, because again, the focus is how can we make everybody efficient in terms of tracking new policies and then ultimately renewals. So let's go ahead and fast forward. So we are now at the quote stage. And so we are, we've quoted this and we are proposing Zurich. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, you know, for the premium for this is $3,000, and we're now in the quote stage. And I'll just mark that as complete, and I will save it. So just to validate, we're now on the quote stage. Done it with Zurich is what we're proposing for $3,000. Right. So now what we want to do is we want to fast forward. And let's go ahead and win the business. Okay. So we are going to close this, and when we say close it, it's going to say what? Bound, written, or lost? Well, we're going to skip past bound and we're going straight to written because we don't have a lot of time as part of this demo. So let's go ahead and say that it was written. I'm going to go ahead and now save that. So congrats, we won the policy. Life is good. What we want to do is we want to go back to the Powers Agency and just see what we've done. So now we've taken a submission all the way through and we've closed the policy in working with Powers Insurance. So when we look here at the opportunities, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh my page, what you're going to see is that there are now 4 opportunities. Well, we already had 2 there. We had the workers' comp that we just wrote, but what you're going to see now is now there's another policy. And let me pull up this other policy. Well, this policy is the same policy, but it's the renewal policy. So the system automatically created a renewal policy for you. You don't have to go in and do it. So it moved the effective date out a year, the expiration date out a year, the close date out approximately a year. But a couple things have changed. The policy status is now at remarket, and the new or renewal is at renewal, because this would be a renewal. It would not be a new policy. Okay? We've cleaned out the premium amount. We left the carrier in there because that's the existing carrier and that may change over time. Okay, so now what we want to do is we can create a renewal process. Now, earlier on, we talked about an onboarding process. We did not build that out as part of this, but want to be able to show you how you can manage business processes in this application. So what we've done is we've created a button up here called Create Renewal Process. Now, one of the things I love about Salesforce is the dynamic actions that are available. So we have an action up here that only shows the Create Renewal Process button if it is a renewal and if it hasn't expired and if it's out for remarket. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Create Renewal Process, and I could type in some information here if I want to, but I'm not going to. So what I'm going to do is just click Save, and what that does is that creates a case. So what we're looking at here is a case for this policy, and it's for a renewal. Now, we brought over some certain information about it, and you can see that the stages of this, or the statuses, have been set to review loss runs, underwriting, remarketing, renewal quote, bind and onboard. You can see that we are at the review loss runs status. Now, since we just closed this, for example, and this is an upcoming policy, we don't need to take action on this right away. But what we've done is, as part of this, is by creating this process, it has created tasks and assigned tasks out to people and put them at certain interval dates. So if the policy renew date is 9/1/23, you can see that starting June 3rd, 23, that we need to start doing this, for example. So what it'll do is it'll put tasks on your task list out in the future to make sure that you're following a consistent process for each renewal. Okay, so that's that. Now, I want to show you how you can use Salesforce to manage another process. So what I want to do now is I want to go to an opportunity, and again, I said I love my views. So here is a view called policies written last 30 days. So let's say that we are into a policy and we need to do an endorsement. So how are we going to manage that process in here? So what I'm going to do is, let's just take El Toro restaurant here, and it's a commercial BOP. And as you can see, it's been written with Allstate. We've got information here about it, blah, blah, blah. So what you can see is now there's no longer a create renewal process here because it's already written, but there's a button called Create Endorsement. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to say need to add more coverage. I could put in other information, but I'm not going to, and I'll hit save. And what you're going to see is that that now has created another case. And this case is around the endorsement. What you can see is that there's the endorsement review, carrier update, and closed. So the status or the process for an endorsement is different than the process for a renewal. What you can see here is that we've got two tasks. Last one had 5, this one has 2. So as part of each task, what we can do is we can also pre-populate it with the steps. What needs to be done as part of this task, so that regardless of who it's assigned to, the information is out there for them to be able to see it. So this allows you to manage through the endorsement, and that endorsement is related to a policy. So I can pull up the policy here, and I can see how many endorsements have been added as part of that policy. Okay. Now, as part of this, and the reason why we use cases for these processes is cases gives you a lot of functionality behind the scenes that you can leverage. For example, you may have an email address called endorsement@mymga.com, or you may have a web page where your appointed agencies can go and put in endorsement requests. Well, with Salesforce, Salesforce has email to case and web to case. And what that allows you to do is, as that information is filled out in the email or on the web form, it can automatically come in here and create a case. No manual intervention by your agency or by your MGA. So that itself is a very, very, very nice capability. And there are other things that cases can do. Okay, now I want to move on to commissions. So what you can see is that there's a tab here called commissions, and there are what we've done, and let's just pull up Chubb here, is this allows you to track information about each commission record. Now, what line of business is it? What state? Is it for new or renewal? And what's the commission rate? We can add additional attributes, but in reality, you may have 57 different commission records for Chubb in here, okay? What we've done is we've just added one just to show how it can be done. But to add additional commission records, basically you would provide us with a spreadsheet with the different attributes, and we would upload it, and that's how all the commission records would get populated. Okay? So what we want to do now is show how you can track commission dollars. So what we want to do is, let's go back to that opportunity of policies written last 30 days, and let's go back to the Sikich workers' comp one. Now, what's interesting is that we moved this to written. It created the renewal opportunity, but I didn't put in any commission information. In the real world, you'd probably have a validation rule in place that would say, hey, this can't go to written until you've selected a carrier, selected the agency commission percentage, but I didn't do it because I wanted to show this off as part of this, show it off as part of this demo. So let's go down here, and because we've selected Zurich here, we are going to click on the commission record, and it's going to default to Zurich, so I can just simply click it there. And let's just say that the agency commission percentage is 15%, and I'll go ahead and save it. What this is going to do behind the scenes is it's going to calculate and do a lookup and see what our commission percent is, and thus how much we get out of this, the agency's commission percentage, how much they get, and deduct those two from the premium amount and how much the carrier is going to get. So for each policy that's written, we can have lookups to the commission, we can have lookups to the agency, have these pre-populated and automatically calculate. Now we do have a commission override button here, such that if there is a spiff or some other type of commission that needs to be done as part of this, you can check that box and then go in and update it manually. All right. So now, as we start to look at the amount owed to the carriers and the agencies, we need a way to report on this. So what we've done is, let's go into the reports tab here, and let's just take the carrier payments due. So what we've done is we built a report here that basically by carrier lists out how much is owed to them for each policy. Now we could have a lot more attributes on this report, be very easy to add in, but this is a report then, and you could even have one created by carrier that is automatically once a month spit out of the system, so that you could not only email that to the carrier, but then you could also use that internally for any checks that may need to be paid. We also have a report here for agencies. So let's go to agency payments due. And again, very similar. What I've done here is I've just added a graph up top, but we could very easily hide the graph if that's not anything that makes sense. And you can just see that how much is owed to each agency here. Now, as part of this, yeah, that's great. So we know how much we got to pay out. But again, going back to the real benefit of this, when we think about it, agencies, not only appointing them, but working with them and really helping them do more business with you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the dashboard tab here. And there is a dashboard called Agency Production. And what you're going to see here is a number of different components that show how the agencies are performing. Now, this looks at it in aggregate. So we've got ranked by production, fastest growing, lowest loss ratio, just a lot of different reports that are out here. And the way Salesforce is designed is this is a graphical representation of the report. If you click on the link, you go from the dashboard tab to the report tab now, and you can see all of the data behind it. So you can get much more data in a report than you can really in a dashboard, but the dashboard can provide you with that graphical representation. Now, what I don't have here is a home tab, and a home tab is typically where you can centralize all your tasks, all your events, all your to-dos. You can also have a dashboard there. So you may want to, in your world, have a dashboard that looks like this, that is front and center every day, that maybe only looks at the past week. This looks at, over a long period of time, but each one of these reports and components is configurable. So you have the ability to have a dashboard, a home page that really, really meets your needs as part of this. Okay. Now I want to go back to Powers Insurance and just highlight some of the information here. These two graphs, we touched on them earlier, but we put them a little bit farther down the page. You may want them front and center, that you see it immediately. You may not want a bar chart. You may want a pie chart. You may want different kinds of components to be able to see that data better. Okay? But again, all of the data here, the premium can be brought in from another system. Goals can be calculated in here. But as you're working with them and they're submitting business and you're writing business and you're renewing business, this gives you other information on how that agency is doing. So you may want to have a report called poor retention by agency and see which agencies, both in quantity and in percentage, are not retaining their existing book. And how can you work with them in order to do that, for example? Because the data is here in Salesforce, you can report on it. So we can develop a lot of different reports based upon this data, put it on the dashboard, put it on the home screen, put it wherever that would help you very quickly understand the performance of that agency and how to work with them better. So I know we've spent a little bit of time going through this. Again, just to review what we went through, we converted a potential appointed agency, we appointed them. We took a submission. We created a potential policy. We wrote that policy. We created a renewal policy. We created a renewal process to make sure the steps get done during the right time. We created an endorsement. We put commission on that sold policy. And we looked at the performance of each agency so that we can work better with them. So with that, that concludes the data model that we built on the Financial Services Cloud. And I wanted to see if there are any questions.
Just a reminder to everyone, you can either enter something in the chat or go under the questions and enter it there. And Matt will be happy to address that. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to go ahead and enter anything you want to ask about. As a reminder, this session is being recorded. You will get a link to this. And when this webinar is over, a very short survey with just a few questions is going to pop up, and we'd appreciate any feedback that you guys would like to give on there. All right. So I don't see any questions that have come in yet. So Matt, if there's nothing else that you would like to show everyone, we can give everyone a little time back in their day.
Great. Well, thank you very much for taking time to watch and listen.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us. Matt, thank you for sharing that demo with us. And we hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you.